Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm gonna be doing a little bit of a different video, and it is on how I turned this bed that I got for around $25 and this bench right here that I got for $30 into these beautiful pieces of furniture that you're about to see. I think it turned out really nice. I mean, it's kind of time consuming, but just as long as you follow the steps, it's really easy to do. All the materials used are going to be listed down below, and if you want to know how to do this, let's get to work. Alright, so I start by sanding the wood with 80 grit sandpaper, and this is very important because you need to prep the wood for the primer and paint to stick to it. Now for the more detailed parts, I take this wire brush and I just use this to go into the crevices, and it actually works really well. Now, this bench wasn't like this when I first got it. When I first got it, it had this very thick layer of bright blue paint, drips on it. It was a mess. It was actually impossible for me to sand over it. So I needed to use paint stripper, and it took me 3 days, okay, to scrape the paint off of it. So if you have a chance to get furniture that hasn't been painted before, do that because it will save you a nightmare. Just a little tip for you. Now this bed had some cracks on it, so I needed to use wood filler, and it's just very simple. Just apply it, scrape the excess off, and wait for it to dry, and then sand it away. Also, the bed had these parts with wood chips on them, and these weren't gonna be showing anyways, but because I didn't want them flaking off while I painted, I decided to do a mixture of wood glue and a little bit of water, and just painted that over the wood chips, and when it dried, it would actually harden. And after everything was dry, it was time to actually sand it, and you can see that the wood filler filled in the crevices really nicely, and the wood chips aren't flaking anymore. So now that the most boring part's done, it's time to clean it, and I vacuumed the majority of the dust, but to really clean it well, I take this mixture of vinegar and water and just wipe it down with a cloth. Do the same thing with the bench. And for the more detailed parts, I just apply the mixture and then clean it with a dry painting brush. So then it was time to prime, and this is an oil-based primer, and for that reason I'm using gloves because this is a paint to wash off. So if you're using a product like this, make sure you use gloves and you don't wear anything you like very much because you're gonna end up ruining your clothes. I applied this with a paint roller for the flat parts and a paintbrush for the harder parts to reach. Also, I only do one layer of primer, and this layer is not gonna look perfect. It's not gonna look super pretty and smooth, but that's okay because you're gonna be sanding it when it's dry to remove like some drips. You might have some streaks, anything like that. Don't worry if it doesn't look smooth, it's not going to. So here you're seeing me sanding the bed with a 180 grit sanding paper just to remove any rough patches or drips that might have happened, and I do this in between every single layer of paint as well. So for the paint, I'm just using this satin white, and I'm going to be applying it the same way I did with the primer, just a roller for the flat parts and a brush for the more difficult parts to reach. And let's just ignore my butt with a piece of grass hanging off of it. Yeah. Now, white paint is kind of tricky because it takes a lot of layers for it to look opaque. So for the bed, I would say it took me 4 layers, and for the bench, it took me 3 layers of paint. And I sanded in between each layer for it to look perfect. So after this, the paint job was done, and the only thing left to do was reupholster the bench. Now, I'm using this fake leather material, and because I'm using thicker fabric, it makes things a little bit more difficult, especially in the corners. So I just start with the larger sides, and I just staple the fabric with this heavy-duty stapler and hammer down the staples to make sure they're secure. And then I now just do the same thing on the other side, making sure to really pull the fabric tight for it not to have like lumps in the front part. Now here comes the corners, and this is gonna be a little bit tricky, and it took some time to figure out, and you're probably gonna need another pair of hands to help you because it's impossible to do it yourself. So I just make sure to do a lot of pleating, trying to make the corners as smooth as possible. Now for the parts where the fabric overlaps, I needed to apply nails because the staples wouldn't go through. And don't worry if the bottom part doesn't look pretty, because you're not gonna be seeing it anyways. Just as long as the top part is nice, that's all that matters. After reupholstering it, this is how it looks. And this is how the final product looks like. So I actually refurbished the vanity and the bedside tables the same way I did in this video. I just got them at separate times, which is also one thing I really like, is that the furniture looks like a set even though it isn't. So basically this room was super inexpensive. I just bought everything off of a second-hand website, sort of like Craigslist. And yeah, don't be afraid of buying things that belong to someone else in the past, because you can always refurbish it and make it look super pretty. I hope this video gave you guys some ideas. And yeah, if you liked it, don't forget to thumbs it up, subscribe to my channel, and watch my previous videos. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!